Welcome to Should I Go, your channel for destination decisions. Today we are presenting a public service announcement type video so that travelers, tourists, and interested adventure seekers can be aware of some sketchy cities in Europe to watch out for when visiting. Not the loveliest of topics, but it is needed because safety is always first. Now, Europe is generally considered a safe destination, but some cities stand out for high crime and violence. In this countdown, we rank the 7 deadliest cities in Europe based on current crime data, especially murder rates, and the dangers they pose to travelers. This video is serious in tone and factual, highlighting the latest crime statistics, recent violent incidents, and specific warnings for tourists. Stay tuned as we count down from number 7 to number 1, the most dangerous cities in Europe today. Sofia is a historic capital that has struggled with organized crime and corruption over the years. While everyday crime rates aren't extreme, the outskirts of Sofia see violent turf wars between rival gangs involved in drug trafficking. Shootouts and even mob-style bombings have occurred as criminal groups settle scores. These incidents give Sofia a deadly reputation, even though they typically happen away from tourist areas. The city's homicide rate is higher than in most Western European capitals, driven largely by these gang conflicts. For tourists, most of Sofia is safe, especially the central areas. Visitors are unlikely to be targeted by the mafia violence as long as they avoid known criminal hangouts, such as certain casinos or nightclubs linked to gangs. Petty crimes like pickpocketing do occur, so usual precautions apply. One specific warning is about scams in bars and clubs. Overcharging tourists for drinks and then using muscle to enforce payment has been reported. Stick to reputable venues and be wary if a night spot seems sketchy. Overall, the danger in Sofia is fairly localized to criminal elements. Tourists who stay in well-traveled areas and use common sense, like securing your valuables and avoiding unlicensed taxis, can visit without major risk. Athens, while rich in history and culture, has a darker side in certain districts and situations. Ammonia Square, for example, is known as a hub for drug activity and can be dangerous, especially after dark. Violent crime in Athens is not widespread, but areas like Ammonia and nearby Vathi or Exarchia have seen assaults and robberies linked to the drug trade. Another concern is political unrest. Protests in Athens are common and can unexpectedly turn violent. In 2023, for instance, clashes broke out in Athens with protesters throwing gasoline bombs and flares outside Parliament during a demonstration. Riot police often respond with tear gas when demonstrations escalate. While these incidents are usually focused around Syntagma Square and certain anniversaries, they contribute to the city's volatile reputation. For travelers, most tourist-frequented parts of Athens are safe. Popular areas like Plaka, Monastiraki, and the Acropolis vicinity have heavy police presence and only typical petty crime. The real dangers are localized. It is wise to avoid Ammonia and nearby sketchy blocks at night, as well as any large protest or strike gatherings, which are often announced in advance. Petty theft is the main risk for tourists. Pickpocketing and bag snatching frequently target visitors in crowded sites and on public transit. Keep an eye on your belongings, especially in packed metro trains, as the line to Athens airport is a hotspot for pickpockets. Also, monitor local news if any demonstrations are planned during your visit. By steering clear of trouble spots and being alert, tourists can enjoy Athens's treasures while minimizing exposure to its rare but real dangers. Number 5 is Paris, France. Paris is world-renowned for its art, cuisine, and romance, yet it also has a reputation for petty crime and occasional violence. In the busy heart of Paris, pickpockets and scam artists are a constant threat at major attractions. Crowded tourist sites like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and Notre Dame draw skilled thieves who use distraction techniques to steal wallets and passports. Travelers have to stay vigilant against classic scams. For example, a cup on the ground scam has been reported where a planted cup is kicked by an unsuspecting tourist, and scammers then demand money for the damage. While such incidents won't make headlines, they are pervasive and can ruin a trip. In terms of violent crime, most of Paris is quite safe, but some areas pose risks. Northern suburbs such as Saint-Denis and certain outer arrondissements, like parts of the 18th and 19th, have higher rates of armed robbery and gang violence. These tend to be impoverished areas with less police presence, and they see more serious crimes, though tourists rarely have a reason to venture there, except perhaps to visit Stade de France or Paris's periphery. Crowds of tourists queue outside the Louvre Museum in Paris. Petty thieves often target such popular sites, using jostling crowds as cover. For tourists in Paris, petty crime is the primary concern. Pickpocketing is rampant in packed metros and around sites. A visitor distracted by the dazzling city can be an easy mark. Stay alert in tourist zones. Keep purses and backpacks zipped and in front of you, and beware of overly friendly strangers or children creating a commotion, a common pickpocket ploy. Violent crime against tourists is uncommon. However, there have been notable incidents in recent memory. Paris was the target of major terrorist attacks in 2015, including the Bataclan Theatre massacre, which claimed 130 lives in the suburb of Saint-Denis and central Paris. Those attacks were extreme outliers, but they underscore that Paris isn't immune to deadly violence. On a day-to-day basis, the danger is localized. If you avoid sketchy outskirts at night and stay cautious in crowded areas, you can explore Paris's beauty with little risk. The city has also increased police patrols in tourist districts in recent years, aiming to protect visitors. Enjoy Paris, but keep street smarts in mind. At 4, we have Brussels, Belgium. As the de facto capital of the EU, Brussels is a city of contrast when it comes to safety. On one hand, it's an international hub with diplomats and tourists filling its streets. On the other, it struggles with crime in certain quarters. Petty crime is a notable problem. Brussels has gained notoriety as a European pickpocket hotspot. Busy transportation hubs like Gare du Midi and Gare du Nord are especially rife with thieves and scam artists targeting travelers. Visitors have reported distraction scams, snatch and run thefts, and fake helpers at ATMs or ticket machines. Apart from theft, street violence and gang crime are not as prevalent here as in some other cities, but they exist in pockets. Certain immigrant-heavy neighborhoods like Molenbeek have faced issues with organized crime and were in the spotlight after terrorism incidents. In fact, Brussels endured one of Europe's deadliest terror attacks in recent years. In March 2016, coordinated bombings at the airport and metro killed 32 people and injured over 300. This traumatic event, though rare, cemented Brussels' image as a city that can be dangerous. For tourists, the biggest risks in Brussels are theft and scams, not violent assault. The Grand Place and Museum Quarter are generally safe, but be very cautious in crowded areas and on public transit. Keep your valuables secure and out of reach. Avoid the area around Brussels Midi Station at night, as it becomes deserted and sketchy. Numerous visitors report feeling unsafe there due to loitering drug users and pickpockets. It's also wise to stay alert during any large events or demonstrations. Brussels, being a political center, sometimes sees protests or heightened security operations. The threat of terrorism, while not something that should paralyze a trip, is taken seriously by authorities. Armed police patrols are common at landmarks and the EU district. In summary, Brussels' dangers are somewhat localized. Petty crime can strike anywhere if you're not careful, and a few neighborhoods have higher crime after dark. By taking standard precautions and avoiding known trouble spots, tourists can enjoy Brussels' chocolates, beers, and beautiful squares without incident. Three, Birmingham, United Kingdom. Birmingham is the UK's second largest city and a vibrant cultural centre, but it unfortunately grapples with a high crime rate and violent reputation by European standards. The city has been plagued by gang violence, knife crime, and drug-related shootings, especially in certain districts. Areas such as Aston and Handsworth in North Birmingham are known trouble zones where gang turf wars sometimes erupt. In recent years, youth violence has shocked the community. For example, in 2021, a 14-year-old boy was fatally stabbed in broad daylight on a busy street, one of several teenagers killed during a spike in knife attacks. Incidents like these underscore Birmingham's status as one of Western Europe's deadlier cities. Its homicide rate, roughly 4.3 per 100,000 in the West Midlands region, is higher than London's. Organised gangs involved in drug trade have made headlines with drive-by shootings and even grenade attacks in the past. The violence isn't on the level of an American city, but within the UK, Birmingham often tops crime charts for major cities. That said, the city centre, around New Street and Bullring Mall, is relatively safe during the day, with heavy foot traffic and CCTV coverage. For travellers, Birmingham's dangers are largely confined to specific areas and times. Tourists usually visit for shopping, museums, or maybe sports events, mostly in the central districts which have a strong police presence. These areas are generally fine, but use caution at night. Late night around the clubbing strip of Broad Street, for instance, can see drunken brawls or the occasional stabbing. It's wise to avoid deserted back streets or rough estates after dark and stick to licensed taxis or ride shares rather than walking alone in unfamiliar neighborhoods. Pickpocketing isn't as rampant as in touristy cities like Paris, but it can happen in crowded markets or stations. Essentially, Birmingham's risk to tourists is moderate. You're unlikely to get caught up in gang violence unless you stray into the wrong place at the wrong time. Pay attention to local advice. Even locals know which districts to steer clear of at night. By staying in well-lit central areas and being aware of your surroundings, you can enjoy Birmingham's sights, the Canal Quarter, Bullring, Cadbury World, and so on, without trouble. The city is working to curb the violence, and most visitors experience it as a friendly Midlands metropolis. But its high murder and assault rates earn it a spot on this list. At number 2, Naples, Italy. A sunny, narrow street in the Spanish quarters of Naples, this lively area is charming by day, but has seen incidents of theft and Camorra gang activity at night, reflecting the city's mix of beauty and danger. Naples is a city of stunning historical riches, and of course the birthplace of pizza. But it's also often cited as Italy's most dangerous city. The main reason is the Camorra, Naples' local mafia syndicate. The presence of powerful crime families permeates Naples and its surrounding areas, giving rise to drug trafficking, extortion rackets, and periodic violent feuds. This organized crime underworld has long earned Naples a notorious reputation. At times, outright gang wars have erupted. Locals still recall periods like 2004 to 2005 or 2016, when dozens of Camorra killings happened within months. Despite this, it's worth noting that statistically, Naples' general violent crime rate is not as high as many might assume. By some measures, it doesn't even rank in the top 10 Italian provinces for violent offenses. Much of the Camorra's violence is targeted at rivals, happening in rough peripheral neighborhoods rather than tourist spots. However, innocent bystanders have been caught in the crossfire on occasion, and the constant threat of mob hits gives the city an undeniably rough edge. Tourists in Naples need to be on guard, but not panicked. Millions visit Naples every year without incident, and the average tourist is far more likely to encounter petty crime than mafia violence. Petty theft and scams are common, especially in tourist-heavy zones like the historic center, the Spanish Quarter, around Piazza Garibaldi, and the central train station. Pickpockets operate on crowded buses and circumvesuviana trains to Pompeii, and scooter riding thieves have been known to snatch phones or purses from pedestrians. Some parts of Naples can feel sketchy after dark. For example, the Quartieri Spagnoli, or Spanish quarters, or areas around Garibaldi Square, which tourists should avoid wandering late at night. If you're visiting, stick to well-lit, busy areas and keep your valuables secured. Be cautious of friendly strangers offering unsolicited help or too good to be true deals. Street scams, like fake petitions or someone spilling something on you then robbing you during the distraction, have been reported. On the positive side, Neapolitans are very hospitable and the police have tourist units in popular areas. By staying alert and taking basic precautions, you can enjoy Naples' incredible sights safely. Thousands of visitors do so. The city's gritty reputation is part of its character, but remember that the Camorra's violence is mostly internal, not directed at tourists. In summary, Naples ranks high for danger due to its crime syndicates and theft rate, but a savvy traveler can navigate it without trouble. Marseille, France. Marseille tops our list as the deadliest city in Europe today. This major port on the French Mediterranean has seen soaring violent crime in recent years, driven largely by drug gangs. Marseille has become a key entry point for narcotics into Europe, and warring drug trafficking networks have turned parts of the city into virtual battle zones. The statistics are alarming. 2023 was Marseille's most murderous year on record, with 47 people killed in gang-related homicides, mostly shootings up from 33 the year before. The bloodshed has been so severe that officials coined the term narco-homicides for these drug war killings. Most of the victims are young men involved in the drug trade, but several innocent bystanders have been caught in the crossfire as well. These turf wars concentrate in the city's impoverished northern districts, Les Quartiers Nord, where rival crews fight over control of housing project drug corners. Marseille's murder rate, roughly 5.5 per 100,000 in 2023, is now one of the highest in Western Europe. Beyond the gang wars, Marseille also struggles with a high rate of armed robberies and assaults compared to other French cities. Decades of organized crime, the infamous French Connection, and socio-economic inequality have contributed to this deadly environment. For the average tourist, it's important to stress that Marseille's violence is highly localized. The worst incidents tend to happen far from the vieux port and popular tourist sites. Visitors flock to Marseille for its old port, historic churches and coastal calanques, and those areas are reasonably secure. Still, caution is warranted. Petty crime is an issue in Marseille's tourist hubs. The crowded markets and portside promenades see frequent pickpocketing. Travelers should be vigilant with bags and avoid isolated streets, especially at night. It's strongly advised not to venture into the northern quarters, like parts of the 13th, 14th, 15th arrondissements, unless you have a specific reason and local guidance. These are the areas grappling with gang activity. Even within the city center, exercise normal city precautions. Don't flash expensive jewelry or electronics, and be mindful after dark in empty areas. Marseille's authorities have ramped up police presence and surveillance, and there are signs the situation is slowly improving. But as of now, Marseille remains Europe's most dangerous city by homicide rate and gang violence, earning the #1 spot on this list. In conclusion, Europe's deadliest cities each have specific factors driving their crime, whether it's mafia's gang wars or economic hardships. Importantly, in most of these cities, the violence tends to be concentrated in certain neighborhoods and situations, not citywide. Tourists are rarely the direct targets of the worst crimes, but they can certainly be affected if unaware or unlucky. If you plan to visit any of these places, do your homework, know which areas to avoid, stay vigilant in crowded spots, and keep an eye on local news for strikes, protests, or crime advisories. Remember that millions of people travel to these cities annually without incident. The key is understanding the risks and acting accordingly. By taking sensible precautions, you can safely enjoy the history, culture, and sights even in Europe's most dangerous corners. Travel smart, stay safe, and you can turn what might seem like a risky destination into an enriching experience armed with the knowledge of what to watch out for. Sources, crime, and safety data were drawn from recent news reports and official travel advisories, including statistics on homicides and crime indices. Notable incidents, such as the 2016 Brussels attacks and Marseille's gang wars, are documented by reliable sources. City-specific safety tips were adapted from travel resources and government advisories. Always refer to the latest advisories when planning travel, as conditions can change. Please like this video, share it. Hit that notification bell and subscribe to Should I Go for more travel advisories and adventures. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching.